Good afternoon. Welcome to Behind the Veil, a show that talks about all things wedding. My name is Marcy Guttenberg, and I am your host today. Keith Willard is out for the day, just recuperating, and he will be back next week. So I wanted to bring out our guest today, who is Carissa Kruse. She was on a few weeks ago and actually brought some great information to our platform. And we wanted today to talk with you about that are, as rising costs are incurred, how we're able to do that as professionals without losing our couples. So, hi, Carissa. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Great, thank you. I'm so excited to have you today. As you know, I mean, I'm a big fan, and I attend your classes and learn so much valuable information. And I wanted people to kind of get a better understanding because we've kind of been going through so much with what has been going on in our industry, around our country, and so forth, with the rising costs. And how do we deal with that with our couples? I mean, like, we have to obviously show some value and other things. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. What can you give me as far as some insight as to what you're seeing in the industry?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here and chat about this topic because it is something that it's affecting almost everybody in our industry, but it's, just in general, just because of where we're at right now. And so I think it's something I've seen a lot of people asking like, hey, our wedding's down, like how many do you have for 2024, like all of that stuff. And so yeah, I'm super excited to try to share some info. So um, the first thing that I always recommend, especially when you feel like you're in a stuck point in your business, is to do some market research. That's a lot of times what a step that people skip, especially even when they're starting their business and they think, oh, if I did it once, they don't need to do it again. I actually recommend that you do that at least once a year because everything is shifting, changing in your market. And we've had so many changes over the last like 3 years within just the world and in the industry and with how much things cost, all of that. So if you haven't done any market research lately, I would highly recommend that you go in and do some market research.
Right. And then as far as like pricing, obviously, um, the product availability, the product price, affects pricing, how it's delivered, those things get added into the mix and so forth. So there's so many variables that go into the pricing. And what can we do to how can we effectively communicate to our clients how, the value that we offer, what, in the way that we're justifying why there's some increase in the costs and how they can appreciate, what can they appreciate these aspects to make sure that they're recognizing that it's more than just the product that you're getting when you're purchasing something.
Yeah. So the other piece that really comes into play is your pricing, your packages, your services comes down to your overall brand, your vibe, your messaging, your feel. So you'll notice like when you go to a website, and that's kind of our storefront as as a
Right.
wedding business. A lot of us don't have storefronts, right? So our website is our storefront. So if you think of it that way, and if you go to your storefront and you go to your business, and do you get that feel um of your ideal couple? Like, so everybody's gonna have different ideal couples, right? So if you I'm gonna assume most of us are kind of in that mid market. And
Right.
so if we go to that and we open up that website, does it give us that feel of that maybe $4,000, $5,000 price point that we're charging? Or does it give that feel of maybe it's more, are you giving more of a Walmart type vibe, right? So it's kind of like you have to kind of figure out like, because if you go in and your website isn't giving that vibe of that pricing point you're at, they're going to feel like, even if your work's fantastic, they're going to feel like, oh, something just doesn't feel right to them and it doesn't align. And so then they go, I'm just going to bounce. This doesn't look like what I'm looking for. So a lot of times people think that their website, design piece of it, and I know you're in the design world with the invitations and stationery and all of that, so you know how important design is, that the design is so important, but then also the messaging that goes along with it. And that has really come about over the last, I would say, 5 years or so. I think it was years ago, even when I got into business, it was, you had your website up, you had your shingle, you had your social media, and it was, and you could book couples, and you didn't really have to have everything just kind of on point and aligned. And it's with as fast as the internet and our digital stuff, all of that's gone. We have to now kind of have a lot of our things more in line if you're wanting to charge kind of those a little bit on the higher end of those prices. If you're in kind of that budget, then it doesn't really matter. Like that's kind of, that's kind of where that sits at. But if you're really trying to get into that mid-market, you really have to put energy into your website messaging, your vibe, your brand, all of that, and make it cohesive, so that, because they notice. And if
they do.
Yeah, right. They definitely notice. And so, and that's a lot of times what I see is when I look at websites and things like that is it's just, it feels disjointed, I think is the best term to say, to kind of put that into a bucket.
Right. Because we're talking about more than just, a color scheme and, putting words on the image. We're talking about making sure that the context is right. We're talking about, making sure that everything is uniform. Maybe your font style and so forth are all going to kind of align with your aesthetics and so forth. But also for the fact that you want to make sure that you're providing your future clients with information that is going to help them in making the best decision. And it's funny, but actually I am waiting right now I just ordered some flat lay material because I want to start doing my own flat lays. I have never done them before. So that's going to be a new animal for me, because I need to start putting up some images that really do reflect my work and my design aesthetics. So, I have images up there, but they're like from my phone or something. So I want to make them a little bit more professional. With regards to vendor transparency when it comes to communication, which, obviously things do change, your rates are changing and so forth. And the couples, obviously are looking at these things. What can we do without causing them stress so that they're not misunderstanding? Is there something that we need to make sure that we're communicating, to be effective? Or to educate them?
Yeah. So I'm always, that's one of the things, as you were just sharing more information there, that I was thinking is your user experience is also so important as well. And so that's kind of where that falls into what you were just saying, is try to share what it's like to work with you. Try to share the next steps. Try to share how you're different. And I always do recommend putting your pricing on your website. I know that's a big,
I finally put mine on.
Did you? Good. I know I know there's different views on that in the industry, but as a marketing and sales strategist, and I've been in the marketing and sales world for over 20 years, that the prices on your website will get you more business. Now, and the reason that I know, and I understand why people don't want to put it on there. They think that if they can get them in the door, they can sell them. That's just not the way that the world works anymore, because of the internet, right? We didn't have years ago. You actually literally had to go to the store. You had to meet with somebody. You had to find the price of something. Now you can look it up on, you could go to Amazon. You could go, wherever, and you can look it up and you can see hey, here's the price of something. So people we're conditioned for that now. So if they don't have any idea of the price that something costs, they just bounce and they go, I'll go find it someplace else then. And you may not be able to put your full price, as I know, invitation stationery, your suites, they're all going to be a little different. They're custom. So in even photography, you might have some more custom stuff you need. There's just some things that way you could put a starting at price. So that way they at least know, hey, they're in my ballpark, and you're not going to have to, it just makes it easier for everybody involved, and you're not going to waste your time or your customer's time.
And by putting a starting price at point, it's also probably a good idea to maybe put on there maybe like what your average price is in addition
Mm-hmm.
to that, just so
Yep.
that they have, some kind of a,
Mm-hmm.
an understanding based on the number,
Yep.
like, and like I put out there based on like 100 invitations, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
just
Yep.
so they
I love that.
gauge a gauge for that. In building relationships, how can wedding professionals build a strong relationship with their clients when they're trying to mitigate the whole impact of the financial part of things? There's so many strategies that we can use, but is there anything that you see as an easy go-to tool for people in that process?
So the biggest thing that, as they're trying to kind of navigate that, a lot of times I see the sticking point is that they don't really know how to, maybe sell their services, right? So one thing that I really love is to do what I call a bonus stack, and that kind of goes along with your pricing.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have this bonus stack that you've created, and you can offer it all the time. You can offer it just certain times of the year. That's kind of up to you. But a lot of times couples love, because I don't like offering discounts. You'll never hear me say, hey, discount your services, because it devalues your brand, your business. And so, right. And so I'm always all about, okay, but what can we do? So offering bonuses, we can put together a bonus stack that has some additional goodies in it. And what I like to do is make sure that it's not cutting too much into our profit. But if that, maybe it's, if your packages are, $3,000 or $4,000 and your bonus stack maybe costs you $100, you'd probably book that all day long and give them that bonus stack, right? Because you're like, hey, if it's costing me $100, and I'm getting a $3,000, $4,000 sale, yes, all day long I'd do that. So you can get creative with those depending on what services you offer. It works for any wedding service. You can get creative and come up with something. And that just makes it juicier for your couples. And it also sets you apart, because a lot of your competition's probably not doing bonus stacks. They're probably not offering bonuses. They might include it into a package. But when you say, hey, I've got some bonuses for you, it's like you're pulling them out and you're sticking them over here, and you're putting them on a big billboard, and you're like, these are so exciting. Look at this. And it just kind of draws them. So I always try to pull out a few, and you can rework your package too, so that you have those bonuses. So if you have a lot of stuff in your package, you can kind of maybe pull out some really juicy things and just market it as a bonus instead. And it's all, and then it's all encompassing in that
great idea.
same thing.
That is such a great idea.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that people are kind of shying away from working on a platform of, constantly discounting anyways, because all they're doing is, in a sense, they're providing a lesser quality sometimes. I feel that they kind of go to the lesser quality. And rather than doing that, you're better off giving your clients that better quality experience and get better quality product, and then throwing in something with that. I think that, when it comes to the relationship part of it, I think that's what's going to build your relationship for future business.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly.
So what would you say as far as when it comes to wedding professionals tailoring their services to meet the client's expectations without compromising quality? Is there anything else that they can do to enhance that part of the model?
I try to just always think from, if I have a couple, bride, groom come to me, what is that overall experience that they're going to experience from the moment they set eyes on my business? Because if we can kind of see it through, a lot of times we're always looking at our businesses through our eyes, right? So, and it's hard to kind of do that sometimes, to kind of take and look at it from the customer perspective or our couple's perspective. But if you can really take and look at it from their perspective, you will see kind of maybe some pieces or some gaps that you could fill that are going to set you apart. And maybe it's an email about how something that nobody maybe talks about, that is different in the wedding industry. And if there's still a lead and a prospect, I always try to kind of, with those types of things, weave it back to the services I provide, obviously, because I'm trying to showcase myself as an expert so that they want to book me. So always kind of trying to weave it back into something, however it is the services you provide. But that is something that if you can take and look at it from your customers and your couple's perspective, you can enhance that process so much better.
Oh, yes. And as far as that goes, as far as that's concerned, do you see that maybe, the education that you're providing your clients, that plays a mix in the whole process, that maybe, if you start giving little tidbits of information before they book, that maybe that's going to help them book, because they feel they're going to get something out of this. Like they feel that they not only get to know you, but they also then provide more trust in you.
Yes, correct. That's and people, it used to be years ago. I know I always kind of relate back, but I always feel like that's how we can know where we're at now. So it used to be years ago that we wanted to just give them all the information in one email, or all the information at one time. People can't consume that much stuff anymore because we have so much noise in the world. We have so much going on that if you send them a huge big email with all of this stuff, they're just going to glaze over and go whoa. But if we take that same email and maybe divide it into maybe six emails, we can drip it out to them, and it's easily consumable. So if you can make any of your content, any of your stuff quickly consumable in 10 seconds or less, or at least draws them in to want to learn more in that quick time frame, you can more easily make that connection and resonate with them. So that's kind of one tip that I would recommend is whatever you're doing for your content, whatever you're doing as you're trying to connect with that couple, is make it about one topic, one quick and easy thing. I see emails sometimes that, and people, they put they have try to put 5 different things into it, and it's by the time I'm what did I just read? What? It's just okay, all right, and then you just bounce out and you're never mind. So I always try to stay focused on one thing, and then always give that one call to action so they know what they should do next.
It's so funny you said that, because I was the person who I would write an email, and it would be long. Mm-hmm. I admit it. And it's Keith and I did some business a while back on something when we were in an we're in an association together, and he used to say to me, "Your emails are so long." And my husband would say, "Oh, your emails are so long." And everybody would say this, and I'm like, okay, I have to figure out a better way to put my my thoughts out there. And I really worked on that and honed it down a lot. But it does take an effort. It really, it's an effort to make sure that you're not overstimulating somebody, because and now I get it. I didn't get it in the beginning, but now I understand why, because like you said, it's what you see out there, all that other noise out there.
Yeah,
it totally is paying a factor.
And when email first started, we didn't really have social media much. We didn't have all of these other things coming at us. So it made sense to make a long email and to share a lot of stuff because we could consume it. But now we just, our brains have changed, or how we just work in the environment, I think, has just changed. And so we just literally can't consume that much info in an email. It just, I don't know why it is. But even I have some people I follow and things like that I absolutely love their emails. And every once in a while they'll put a really long one, and I'm still like, you know what I mean? I feel like I just read a novel. What do I
exactly? I've gotten to the point where it's literally bullet points for me. And I think that to me is the easiest way, so that I make sure I'm covering what I need to cover, but I'm making it super, super, every line I try to make as short as I can.
Yep. Snack sizable. Just make it quick. Yep.
Little bites.
Little bites. Yep. You got it.
So when it comes to the budget question, obviously I don't personally like the word budget. I try to use different words to kind of get around, like, where is your comfort level price point wise, or, something like that. But what do you think that vendors can do to help navigate that sensitive conversation, especially when somebody might have that tighter restraint? Is there a diplomatic way to talk about, like, the rate increase without making them feel a sense of discomfort?
Yeah, I think I like to always just ask, like, what, how much are you looking to invest in this service? So that kind of gets you around that word budget if you're really trying to, get around that word. And it's kind of your clientele too. Some might, if you use the word investment, that might actually like make them go, what? Like, so it's also kind of where you're at within your business, your location, all of that kind of stuff. For the other thing, messaging wise, but the word budget is actually what the couples use a lot of times, right? So it's okay to use that word because that's probably what makes sense to them. Investment might not make sense to them. So again, if we go back and kind of look at what is our ideal couple want, what feels good to them, and the word investment might actually throw them for a loop a little bit and be like, whoa, they might be out of my comfort zone. You know what I mean? Like, it's all about making them comfortable. So as you're and that kind of goes back to your vibe and your brand and in your messaging. And so kind of we figure out where it is that you fit, where is your ideal couple? How does that fit in? How do they speak? What is their language? And then use that language because that's going to draw them in more. So I see that, sometimes people will put, on their website navigation bar, they'll put investment or they'll put pricing or, and so that comes back to the messaging standpoint. What is your ideal couple going to feel like? Are they seeing this as an investment? Are they seeing this just kind of as a service that they're purchasing? Like, what is it where does that fall? And so all of those little things kind of make a difference. Even though you might not think about it too much, all of those messaging pieces all fit together to create that overall brand and vibe for your business. And so, it really kind of just depends on what you and your comfort level too, like, what you're, sometimes you might not like that word budget either. So then, yeah, you can kind of like, oh, what's your price point? What's your, you can kind of weave in and find kind of some other words that kind of get to that same question without, maybe using the word budget.
And do you think that maybe more either a deposit or a retainer might be necessary in this circumstance to maybe get that piece of business, that maybe, be a little bit more flexible?
Yeah, I love offering a couple different payment options. That's one of the things that I love about, because I'm still in the wedding business. I have my own wedding business still. So I get to see how things have changed over the years. And because things have definitely changed in the last few years. And so being in the business, I can actually kind of tweak things and then share what those tweaks are along the way. And that would be one of the things that I would say has really changed over the years is that people are used to, paying online and making payments or, on that on demand type thing. So I always make sure I take a deposit. And you can kind of figure out what that looks like for your business. 40% kind of deposit is kind of a standard that I have in my business. And then I also do a couple other things like 25% down, 25% at 6 months. And then the remainder is always due 30 days before the wedding. I will also do kind of some other payment options as well if needed. And so being flexible in that sense is in my brand and my vibe. So that's also kind of that's part of who, just who I am as a person. And I want that to showcase in my wedding business as well. So when you go through and you kind of map out all of those things that are important to you, that you want to make sure that are woven into your business, those are the things that you'll start to be able to then pull levers on within your business and show up differently and showcase yourself differently. Because if you're in my instance where, you know, we're a little more flexible, our couples really love that. They're like, hey, thanks for working with me. Hey, this is amazing. Hey, you go above and beyond. Like, wow, this is versus, you know, 40% down. That's the way it is. Book your service or not. Like,
Right.
yeah. So it's all about how they feel, and they want to make sure they're working with people that they're vibing with, that they feel like are fun to work with too. A lot of times, you know, like, so I would say I was just chatting with somebody before this, and a good portion of the wedding industry works with the average everyday person, right? Yes, there's that luxury market. Yes, there, you know, and then you have like the budget brides, but that big segment is where most of us fall into. And so if we can really hone in and get that vibe and that brand and that messaging on point, you're going to just stand out in your market, because there's not a lot of people doing that.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. That really does. I mean, it does help for people to understand that, you know, the flexibility now more than ever really is needed, because people are getting paid differently sometimes. Not everybody is paid the, you know, it used to be like the standard was the 2 week, you know, there's so many variables that are going on now. I just think that sometimes that, you know, we need to be flexible, and, you know, where are they getting the money from? Are they putting it all out themselves? Are they getting any help from family and so forth? So sometimes they're waiting for that money to come in from other people. You know, these are just additional things I think that people may want to start thinking about.
And I'll say too, I've had my business for 10 years now, or over 10 years now, and I've always kind of ran it that way. I've always ran my business under that kind of guise of flexibility, work with you. You know, if you say, hey, we're the right fit for your wedding, all right, let's, you know, like, we'll figure it out and kind of figure out what works with your you know, if the package works, and but the payment piece of it, you know, we'll figure it out. And so and I think over we've worked with over like 1,500 couples. We've done I think I've had one that has like ended up like not being able to pay at the very end. Like, so so I know that sometimes people are like, oh, well, I want to make sure they're able to pay or whatever, all of that. I'm still vetting them. I still know they're my ideal couple, but everybody has these different things in life. And especially now, there's a lot going on. And so if you think, hey, that might be an issue, it's not been an issue. So just,
right.
It's more of them just knowing that, you know, we just both know, hey, we're a good fit to work with each other. Let's do it. Let's make it happen.
Exactly. And then, you know, speaking of showcasing, I think that when people are looking for somebody to work with, one of the things, you know, I think we all know is that they're looking at the testimonials and the success stories and so forth. What do you think that people are paying attention to when they're looking at these? Is there something that, you know, I mean, should we be spreading these out over our websites or materials that we're providing, or do we just keep it on one page?
So I like to spread them out. So I like to kind of drip them, because a lot of times it gets overwhelming. If you just, it's great to have a testimonial page too, if you want to have one, if for those, because there are kind of some of those people that want to read them all, right?
One shot.
And that's, yeah. But I also like to sprinkle them out, so that way they're easily consumable. Again, make your stuff easily consumable. Make it easy to read. Don't use font that's unreadable. Make sure that, and you know that from invitations, like,
yes,
you get, and I know everybody wants
20 million fonts.
Yeah, 20 million fonts, or they want cursive, but make sure that cursive is readable, that it's easily consumable, that they don't have to stress to try to figure out like what it is you're trying to say. But I like to kind of, dabble them out into different spots. The one thing from a sales psychology standpoint that I like to kind of share in for people to think about is everybody kind of consumes stuff differently. So if we can share and I think there's like there's kind of four different ways that people kind of consume information. And so if we can make sure we weave in kind of those different pieces in throughout that, you're going to be more apt to book more weddings. So and that's kind of where that came from, that some people want to consume all of those testimonials at once. Some want to just kind of see them here and there, that you've got that you've got some testimonials, and they don't really need to read them. They just need to know you have them. Right.
Right.
So you have kind of these different people from a sales psychology standpoint. So if we weave in all of those different kind of pieces into our business, we'll be able to get over any objections easier. We'll be able to feel like we're talking. They'll feel like we're speaking to them directly, even though they're kind of four different types of people that consume information differently.
Good point. And as for vendors, when they're looking at when they're looking at their relationships within the industry, what kind of community engagement do you think that they should have? I mean, like, is it important to get active and being, attending events that are for people in the industry? Is it important for them to maybe be out there and getting, educated, or I call it re-educating sometimes, because, a lot of times you'll take classes and you'll say, oh, I've already experienced that, or already know that. But I think a lot of times we just need to kind of bring it back to the forefront sometimes, or, and maybe just building a new network within your own little niche.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I've seen this year that has been a sticking point and for a lot of wedding pros is they don't really have a marketing strategy. And what happens when you don't have a marketing strategy is you're kind of just trying this, you're trying that. You're not really tracking much. You might think something's working better than it is, or you might think something's not working and it's really working. And so that is one thing that I just created a kind of a mini course called Bookings Ever After. And it's helping you build your 12-month actionable marketing strategy so that you have something tangible. And so I'm teaching you the framework in there so that people can know then and take that framework year after year and say, like, okay, here's what I need to do now next year. And we always have to look backwards to look forwards. And so we're analyzing what is it you previously did to then be able to, what do we need to do moving forward? And then from there, we end up taking and building out your visibility strategy, your traffic strategy, and all of these different strategies that all come together in your marketing plan. And so that's kind of the biggest thing that I've seen is if you don't really have a strategy in place, we need to kind of get that in place. So that's kind of
that's why that's why I got involved with you. because it really has helped me. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think we get caught up in so many other things that we do forget. It's not about just looking at your business, every few years. We really have to pay it. I love how you said it at the beginning, that you have to look at it once a year. Mm-hmm. And if not twice a year, sometimes, some people will look at it more, but, it is important to get the eyes on there and start really drilling down, as you say, to get that extra push. And not just for the business, but, for ourselves to stay motivated and doing what we love doing.
Yep, exactly. And we get and we have such our ebbs and our flows, right? Within our business, we have our busy seasons of bookings and we have our busy seasons of weddings. And then we feel like those in-between times can get really stressful because we don't have a plan in place or to really follow and to say, hey, here's what I'm going to do next. The other thing that I see, and this is kind of a mindset piece I'll throw in here, is that we end up putting our emotions into our business. And business is just numbers, right? Business is just numbers. It's not emotional. And I will be the first to tell you, I am an emotional person. So this has been really, that's been something that's been hard for me. But I've finally gotten to the point where I go, it's numbers. It's not personal. It's not, okay, what do I need to do more of to hit those numbers? What do I need to do less of to hit those numbers, right? It's kind of a twofold, because a lot of times when I dive in with people and do strategy sessions, things like that, I find out that they are putting their energy towards things that really aren't helping move that needle in their business, because those are the things they might enjoy a little bit more, but it's not helping them book more weddings. So what we really need to do is make sure that we build that strategy, shift those, our energy and what we're using for those hours to things that are going to help us get more seen in our business. And that comes back to kind of what you said. I kind of went in full circle here, but so maybe it is more collaboration and getting in front of other vendors. Maybe it's building out your lead magnet to generate more leads. There's all kinds of ways to book weddings. And it's what is it that you want your strategy to be? So there's not one way to book weddings. I think people think, if you're not in the marketing sales world, you think there's one way that I got to book weddings. There isn't. There are actually multiple ways you can book weddings. We just need to build your strategy and what feels good to you, because what feels good to you might not feel good to me, and that's okay. And that's what makes marketing and sales actually fun, is we can build the strategy around what you want, where you want to put your energy, because social media works, paid ads work, organic works, blogs work, email works. They all work, and we can figure out where is it that you want to go, and then we can layer some of those strategies, which then even makes it more robust of a marketing machine for you.
Wow. Yeah, there's so many variables to think about. And thank you so much for coming on today. This has been a great session. I'm so excited. I think that, going into the end of the year, when people start really thinking of, when they're having some downtime and they start thinking about their business, I think this was a perfect opportunity to bring some awareness to those little highlight points that are really making a big impact on your business. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate you coming on here today, Carissa. Carissa Kruse is, I'm going to put up her Instagram handle here. So Carissa, this is your Instagram, correct? Carissa Cruse Weddings?
Yep, correct.
Okay, perfect. So if you would like to reach out to Carissa, she is at www.carissacruseweddings.com, or her Instagram handle is at Carissa Cruse Weddings. And you can reach out to her directly, and she'll be happy to give you some more insight. So we want to wish everybody a happy day, happy week, and we will be back next week. Thank you very much. But for now, we're going to say goodbye.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.